like to ask all in the council chambers to turn off or at least put their cell phones on vibrate. Today is October 4th, and at the public hearing of the Stratford Zoning Board of Appeals will come to order to hear those petitions advertised for the session. For those who are not familiar with our process, each petitioner or their designated representative will present their case to the board. When they have concluded, board members will have an opportunity to ask any questions they may feel that they may have. I will then ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the petition or anyone who would like to speak against. Okay? And after that, we go directly into, I don't have my glasses on, so bear with me. We go directly into the mic. Please speak directly into the mic. After all the petitions have been heard, we will then recess to our administrative session. Interested parties are welcome to stay. However, the only board members and staff will be allowed to speak at this time. Please be advised that clapping, shouting, or any way expressing any opinions on these applications is not allowed or will be tolerated. Thank you very much. Okay. Petition number 1, Ms. Young.
We have the first petition. They've requested a continuance for 55 Washington Parkway.
Okay. Like I said, pardon?
I was just asking to what date?
To November, let me look at my calendar, but I'll tell you right this. November 3rd, and that's a Thursday.
And they granted us any extension necessary to do that?
Correct. They've granted us a 35-day extension.
So we're moving on to number 2?
Yes, like I said, petition number 2, Ms. Young.
220 Silver Lane, petition of Lisa and Leonard seeking waivers of the front and side setbacks as required by section 4.2 to construct a second-floor addition in an RS-3 district. Hardship adding on for my elderly relative to live with owner.
Okay. Is the petitioner here? Okay.
Hello,
Good evening.
Please state your name.
Lisa
And address.
Leonard.
And do you have your mailers, certificate of mailers? Thank you.
There's a stamp right there.
I'm sorry?
All set.
And if you could just adjust the microphone.
Pull it down, there you go.
Thank you.
Good.
Go ahead.
So you can go ahead and just explain to the board what your plans are and why you plan to do while you're here before us.
My plans are, as you would have seen in my packet, to add over our existing garage and breezeway and to close in the existing breezeway so that we may have additional space for my mom to come and live with us. My mom will actually be living in our current home, and my children will be living over the garage.
Okay. Any questions?
Mary Young,
Yes?
could you articulate what the hardship is?
My mother actually is ill at this time, and she's been living on her own, and I think it's important that she be with us so that we can take care of her and look over her. She's actually having surgery this week to remove some lung cancer that she has.
I certainly hope everything goes well.
Thank you.
I have a copy, and I wonder if you have a copy of the September 20th memorandum prepared by Jay Hibansky.
Yes, I do.
I'm looking at the bottom of the first page,
Yes.
and Jay asks that the commission might explore with the applicant, that being you, other alternatives you might have considered that would not have required a variance. Can you tell us anything about that?
We did consider going on to the back of the home, but we love our property. We like our yard, and we didn't want to use up any more ground space, if you will, or add to our footprint. So we figured going over the garage would be the best way to do that. Also, we do have some electrical lines buried in the ground in the back, and I was just concerned about building over that in case something should go wrong at some point with those wires.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. We're all set. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this petition? Hearing or seeing none. Would anybody like to speak against it? Okay, motion to close. Mr. Hoydick, Mr. DeCilio. Mr. DeCilio, petition number 3.
Petition number 3, 61 Morningside Drive, petition of Craig Tibbles, seeking waivers of building coverage and side setback as required by Section 4.2 to construct an addition in an RS3 district. Hardship is both medical necessity and ledge on the property, and parking.
Please come forward. Oh. Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Okay.
I have the certificates of mailing here.
Jay, is there usually a list, or is this sufficient?
That's sufficient.
Okay, I think if I went onto the website, I literally looked at every piece of property that met my property, and I sent one to. 'Cause I didn't want to possibly forget anybody, and I knew that I wanted to make sure I got everybody. All right. My name is Craig Tibbles. I live at 61 Morningside Drive with my family, my wife, my 2 kids. My daughter Ella is back here. She's reading
Hi.
her book, so she's happy. She'll be content for while the meeting goes on.
Thank you.
I bought forgive me, I don't speak in front of people that much. I bought this house in 1992 in the town of Stratford. My grandmother lived in Stratford for a long, long period of time. I bought this house in 1992, not knowing that there was a lot of ledge underneath the property. And because of this ledge, we weren't able to do a lot of things to the property that we wanted to. And one of the things that we did put on, and how we found this, was we put an addition on several years after my son was born. He's now 20. And once the excavator came in, he started digging up the backyard, and we found a lot of ledge. We were planning on a full foundation, and, well, lo and behold, we found this ledge. So we cannot do anything to that side of the house, or add anything else to there. So my wife and I explored a lot of other options as far as what we can do to the house. We considered going up, which doesn't give us the space that we need. Or we considered going out the back wall, blowing out the back wall, and possibly putting a new foundation in the back, and that didn't work either, because overall we were looking for another car garage. We have a 1-car garage now, so we're looking for another car garage, and we're pretty much using a lot of the same footprint as we already have. It's just a little bit bigger, and we're going more towards the property line. Now, I mailed all my neighbors their letter, and believe it or not, I've talked to most of my neighbors, and my neighbors are like family to us. We get together around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, and my daughter and my son go over to their house all the time, so my neighbors are like family, so I could talk to them as family. I really didn't even need to send them a letter, but I did, because that's what you require. But I've talked to most of my neighbors, and they would love to see the addition go on. With the architect's plans, he made the plans to fit in with the neighborhood. he wanted, the charm and the character of the neighborhood and of the town of Stratford, we wanted to stay with because that's what drew us here in the first place. So that's what we're looking at, and that's what the architect drew. I actually have a pretty much finished drawing of what the front looked like, if anybody would like to see that. Also, to go along with the one-car garage is most of the other neighbors on the street have two-car garages. We're one of the couple that do not, and we figure it's because of that ledge, which is why they put the house where they did. And they kind of squished it all together and only made a single-car garage. So we have no choice but to go out the other way. That's all. I mean, do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions? Mr. Hoyt?
Yes, sir.
The existing house, do you have a basement in it now?
Yes, I do.
Full basement?
Correct.
When you construct the proposed addition, are you going to have any difficulty with adequate footings because of the ledge that exists? Are you going to be able to put footings in for the expanded garage and for the addition in the back?
I don't see any problems with that, and the reason why is because I'm staying with a lot of the property and around the house that has already been dug up at one point. Because I don't know if you could see where I have a breezeway and a one-car garage.
I see that, yeah.
The garage will push forward a couple feet, but the back will only come out probably about 5 or 6 feet. And that's already been dug up because the foundation is already there. Or I should say the slab from the breezeway. is
So
already
basically, the ledge is in your backyard, basically?
there. Correct.
Okay.
So I'm trying to stay with the original footprint of where, so I can extend the house, get what we need to have done with the small area that we have, and I'm pretty sure that there's no ledge there.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're
Any
welcome.
more questions, Ms. Young?
Good evening.
Good evening.
In your application, you mentioned your hardship is medical necessity, ledge on property, and parking.
Yes.
I have your site plan in front of me. I don't see any topography or indication of ledge by the surveyor. Is there any documentation that shows what you've been describing to us verbally?
I don't see how I don't see how I can have any documentation. I did tell the surveyor about that, and there's no way that he was able to check or any verify it because of just pretty much what I was telling him. I don't really know how else to explain that to you as far as the topography or anything like that. I can tell you that the gas company came in about a month ago, and I had gas put into the house, and they literally spent about 9 hours in the front yard just putting in about 30 feet of gas line because they had to break through the ledge in order to put the gas line deep enough.
To the other point of the medical necessity, is there any documentation in that regard?
I can get you that if you would like. I can say that my wife has celiac disease, which I don't think anybody would pretend to have celiac disease, so I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. What celiac disease is real quick, if you don't mind me explaining. Celiac disease is where the villi in the small intestine, anytime it has wheat, any type of wheat product, what it does is the wheat product goes down and it kills off the villi in your intestine. So your body doesn't absorb the nutrients of any food that it has. And with my wife, and the reason why I put medical necessity down, is she has it really bad. And what happens is if there's any type of contamination and or cross-contamination, that she is very, very sensitive. The longer you stay off of wheat, the more sensitive your body gets to it. So even the most minute amount of wheat, what happens there is that she's, and it's happened quite a few times, that her joints blow up and she can't move for about a day. But I can get you that if you'd like. I'm sorry I didn't bring anything any type of documentation for that.
Because you cited it as your hardship, I was looking for something in the record that would, if you will, back it up. I'm sympathetic to your wife's condition. I have a husband with the same condition.
Oh, you do?
I guess I'm not,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
thank you, I'm not understanding the relationship between her condition and your variance.
What's happened is the variance is mostly because of the ledge. But my necessity is I like to put everything in, and the reason why is because there's a small section behind that where the breezeway is now that will meet the kitchen and the garage. That area will have 2 extra cabinets just for her food, so we could separate the foods and she can have her whatever have you know, her crackers and her food's separate from all the others. If anybody knows that has kids, you can't keep crumbs and wheat away from everything. So the cross-contamination is unbelievable.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope I answered it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay. Anybody like to speak in favor of this petition? Would anybody like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, have a motion to close. Mr. DeCilio, second. Mr. Hoydick, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to administrative session. Oh, and right now the motion was to close the public hearing. Okay, Mr. Hoydick and Mr. DeCilio. Thank you. Okay, petition 2. Would anybody like to take that off the table?
Make a motion to take petition 2 off the table, 220
Second,
Silver
Mr.
Lane.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. DeCilio.
I drove by the property today and reviewed the plans, and it appears, and well, I guess I'll ask my other commissioners if they agree, that there's no expansion of the existing footprint on this application. We're simply adding a second floor to the garage. In Jay Hibansky's notes, a concern always is if a waiver is granted, it is for life. What happens 5 years or 10 years down the road when there's no longer a need or the house is sold? Will somebody use this for some purpose that does not conform to our zoning regulations? I don't know the control this board has over that. That is my only concern. Other than that, the pre-existing hardship appears to be the fact that the house exists where it is. It makes the application makes sense as long as we can address that second issue.
Okay. Could we put a stipulation in that can't be used for it? In other words, you're worrying about if years down the road it becomes an apartment or something.
Yeah, I sold a house on a different street in the north end several years back that over the garage was this similar setup, and it was rented out. They threw a kitchen in, and it wasn't the original people. It was like 2 owners hence. So that's my concern. I don't know how you control that when you approve an application like this. That's my question.
But you could always add, the last sentence that I have in my staff comments is, you can always choose to stipulate that the newly proposed and built space shall never be rented out, and no kitchen shall be installed up there unless they make a formal application for an accessory apartment to the zoning commission. I think that would be an appropriate condition of approval should you choose to make that ruling.
Okay. Mr. Hoydick?
Yeah, my experience after being on these boards and commissions for a number of years is that the only really way that you discover that an apartment or an addition has been converted to a separate apartment is by someone complaining. If that doesn't happen, there's really not much Jay or any of his team can do in terms of. Or the other alternative is when they do a reevaluation. I know in years past that when the assessor's office does a reevaluation, sometimes they'll stumble upon it and it's reported to Jay's office. But other than that, there's not much you can do. So we can put it as a stipulation, but the enforcement is the hard part. So.
Okay, any other questions? Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion.
I will make a motion to approve 220 Silver Lane, subject to the stipulation that the additional space not be converted to an apartment and rented to a non-family member.
And
The-
second by Paul.
Town attorney,
Okay.
so we can ask, is that good?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ms. Young? Okay, it's 4-1. Okay.
I'll make a motion to take 61 Morningside Drive off the table.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Mr. DiCilio? Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application, basically just citing the hardship that the property owner has talked about in terms of his ledge situation. I live on a parcel that has a lot of ledge outcropping. My lot is very restricted on what I could do, so you have to try to shoehorn in what you can. And it is a hardship. I mean, I know it as a fact. So I will make a motion to approve the application.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
Mr. DiCilio? All those in favor? Aye. Ms. Young? Any against? Ms. Young? Okay, 4-0. Thank you very much.
4-0, 4-1.
I mean, 4-1, excuse me. Okay. And that concludes our administration session.
No, we got to do the minutes.
Okay. Now. Okay. Motion, what date is that? September 6th. Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes for September 6, 2016. Mr. Hoydick, Ms. Young. Okay, and moving right along. How about the campsite plan?
The CAM site plan review will be continued with the original application seeking variances for 55 Washington Parkway. That'll be continued to November 3rd.
Okay, members' concerns or comments? Ms. Young.
I couldn't help but notice our town attorney's with us. I don't want to ask questions of an item that's not being heard tonight, but I wonder if I can talk about similar hypotheticals, or do you think that not appropriate?
I would hold off on that if those hypotheticals have to do with an application that is pending before this board, and I would hold off on those for now, due to fundamental fairness to those applicants.
Understood. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Well,
Mr.
excuse me,
DiCilio.
before,
Oh,
there's
go
an
ahead.
item on the agenda regarding concerns and comments from the town attorney regarding doubling the application fee. Is that something we're discussing tonight? Before we
Yeah,
adjourn?
so we basically, Commissioner Young asked Attorney John Flork about the possibility of doubling our application fees for anyone coming in to legalize work after the fact, or obtain a variance after the work has already been done. And I followed up, and we are still waiting on that opinion. So we don't have it yet. And then Attorney Flork will basically give us the step-by-step process of what we need to do should we want to double that fee, how we would go about doing it, going in front of the town council and explaining the reasoning for doubling the fees, and let them decide whether or not they would like to approve it.
Is it one set fee now, or does it depend on the application itself?
Well, it's one set fee now.
What do we ask for a fee?
I think it's $350. $350?
350?
We have so many fees, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I mean, that's a
I
good
believe it's
ballpark around
350.
there. Okay, all right.
Just
Thank
as a reminder, I had raised the issue because I work in a community that has elected to require a higher fee for people coming in after the fact. So so I wanted to see if my hometown might enjoy the same benefit to try to disincentivize people waiting for getting their approvals after the fact. So thank you in anticipation of that dialogue.
I would also say that we do have another town attorney here, and we could certainly ask Attorney
noticed
Flork's opinion.
Well, yeah, I was doing some of the research on that. We'll certainly have an opinion for you next time. I apologize for not getting it to you at this meeting. There is a state statute that permits Board of Zoning Appeals, zoning commissions to apply reasonable fees, and those fees can be in excess of a flat fee. I'm pretty sure I would feel more comfortable getting something to you in writing. And the applicable zoning regulation is 22.5 fees to the Board of Zoning Appeals. All fees shall be in an amount prescribed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's a pretty broad provision, so I'd kind of just like to make sure that that is valid. But I will do my utmost to have something to you guys at the next meeting.
Speaking of the next meeting, will we have the benefit of your presence on November 3rd?
If I am alive and well, I should be here.
Thank you.
I have a question. With this, people coming in after the fact, okay, is there any way we can assess the general contractor, throw a fine on him? Because some of these guys come in, start a job, tell the homeowner, well, don't worry, you don't need nothing. And then they get banged. I mean, the general contractor should know better, and he should be fined.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
I mean, why should the homeowner take the brunt of this?
Yeah.
You know, I can see if they're doing it themselves, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
But if they do have a licensed general contractor doing their job, as they should,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
contractor should be fined.
Yeah, I can look into that as well. So you're speaking specifically about a fine to a contractor who does work without a permit. I can look into that. I don't know off the top of my head, so I wouldn't want to comment.
Something
But
to check into.
yeah, I can look into. I now you know, for instance, if somebody does work on their house or business that subsequently requires a variance, and that requires an inspection on the part of the building department, that could, you could make an argument that would be a reasonable fee to send somebody out to have to inspect that. But as far as the chairman's question, I will look into that as well.
And I do have a little bit of experience with that. In order to establish a fine, there needs to be an appeal system, and there needs to be basically a moderator and a board who sits and hears any of the appeals. So there would be some
I
significant,
think the state has that.
and they might. The other thing is that anytime work is being legalized, the general contractor is, and it's at the discrepancy of the building official, through the National Building Code, they can be charged double for their permitting fees.
Okay.
So,
Jay knows this stuff better than I do in a lot of instances, so he's probably correct. That would probably be issued by the zoning enforcement officer, and the fee would probably be appealable to this board. But I'll talk to Jay, and we'll try to get on the same page about it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well said.
that's it.
Okay,
Unless
motion
anybody
to
else has
adjourn.
anything else?
Mr. DeSilla
Second?
and Ms. Young. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, guys. Okay, thanks, Jay.
Alex, thank you. You're welcome.